that artists should never apologize for their art. You put something out there, you paint a watercolor, you make a joke, you make a television show, whatever it is.
Obnoxious elements in society has created a society of an extraordinarily authoritarian and controlling nature. It is what you might call the new intolerance.
All right, everyone, let's jump into a fascinating discussion about the legendary Rowan Atkinson. Yes, the comedic genius, the mastermind behind the unforgettable Mr. Bean. This man isn't just a pro at making us laugh without uttering a single word. He's also stepped right into the heated conversation surrounding one of today's biggest topics, free speech. And trust me, Atkinson's perspective is sharp, insightful, and completely unfiltered. His stance on censorship will definitely make you rethink your own views. So, if you're ready for a thought-provoking journey filled with clever insights and straight-to-the-point truths, stick around. Oh, and if you're enjoying these deep dives into intriguing topics, don't forget to hit that subscribe button for more mind-expanding discussions. Now, let's explore Rowan's take on comedy and its true role in society.
What the atmosphere was in the room. If people pay to see a comedian, they've got to accept whatever they provide. I'm a great believer that artists should never apologize for their art.
Rowan doesn't hold back. He keeps it real with one simple truth. The primary purpose of a joke is to make people laugh. Nothing more, nothing less. But here's where it gets interesting. In today's hypersensitive climate, where every joke gets dissected from every angle, he refuses to back down. His stance? Comedians shouldn't have to say sorry just because someone decides to take offense. Think about it. If people are willingly attending a comedy show, isn't it reasonable to assume they know what they're getting into? It's like an all-you-can-eat humor buffet. You don't get to dictate every ingredient. And the best part? Rowan's passionate stand for free speech doesn't end with comedy. He's got plenty more to say, so stick around.
Arrested for urinating in a public convenience and looking at me in a funny way.
He highlights some truly bizarre real-life cases. A man arrested for calling a police horse gay, a teenager fined for labeling Scientology a cult, and a cafe owner penalized just for displaying Bible quotes on a screen. To Rowan, these incidents feel straight out of a comedy sketch. Ironically, much like one he once performed about a hilariously overzealous cop arresting people for ridiculous offenses, like walking around all over the place. The absurdity isn't lost on him, and it only strengthens his belief that society is veering into dangerous territory when it comes to policing speech.
The clear problem with the outlawing of insult is that too many things can be interpreted as such. Criticism is easily construed as insult by certain parties.
What's alarming is how life is now imitating satire. For Rowan, laws that restrict free speech feel like a punchline with no laughter to follow. To him, the right to express yourself isn't just a privilege. It's as fundamental as food, water, or air. He's been fortunate to speak freely without fear. But what truly unsettles him is how easily others are being silenced over the pettiest things. Imagine getting fined because someone decided a joke hurt a horse's feelings. Sounds absurd, right? Yet these situations aren't fiction. They're happening. For Rowan, it's like watching one of his old comedy sketches play out in real life, where people were absurdly arrested for doing nothing wrong. The difference? This time, it's not for laughs. It's actually happening. His message is loud and clear. If being offended is enough to punish someone, we've completely lost perspective. And that's a dangerous road to go down.
The best way to increase society's resistance to insulting or offensive speech is to allow a lot more of it. As with childhood diseases.
Rowan goes even deeper, questioning why criticism has become such a high-stakes gamble. It's as if society has developed a hypersensitivity to even the mildest critique, where a bit of playful sarcasm can land you in real trouble. He calls this phenomenon the new intolerance, a phony version of open-mindedness that only functions if everyone conforms to the same rigid ideology. It's a strange kind of groupthink that parades as progressive but actually stifles genuine progress. And Rowan makes a compelling point. If we're all too busy silencing each other, who's left to challenge ideas and spark meaningful conversations? But don't worry, he's not just pointing out the problem, he's got a solution.
Seem to need a real victim, they need only to make the judgment that somebody could have been offended if they had heard or read what has been said, the most ludicrous degree.
Rowan Atkinson firmly believes that the right to be inoffensive isn't real freedom at all. He actively supports rolling back laws that fuel censorship, such as the infamous Section 5 of the Public Order Act. For him, repealing these kinds of restrictions is just a small but crucial step in pushing back against what he calls the rise of an outrage industry, a system where self-proclaimed moral gatekeepers pressure authorities to react to the pettiest of grievances. He points out just how absurd things have become. Police rushing to investigate minor insults on Twitter, often without an actual victim in sight. To Rowan, this isn't just an overreaction, it's a dangerous misuse of power. Instead of upholding free expression, it creates a culture where people are encouraged to overreact, making society more fragile rather than resilient. Picture this. Someone fires off a harmless tweet with a minor insult, and before they know it, it's making headlines like it's the biggest controversy of the year. The real kicker? Authorities often feel compelled to intervene, even when there's no actual harm done. This is where Rowan Atkinson's biggest concerns come into play. When the standard for punishment becomes potentially offensive,
certain jokes or certain attitudes and outlooks are just out of fashion. And in the end, the whole point of a joke is to entertain people. And if people are not entertained, then you haven't fulfilled your brief. And so I'm a great believer that we must have free expression.
the right to free expression starts looking less like a fundamental freedom and more like a conditional privilege, one that can be revoked the moment someone takes issue with what's being said. And for Rowan, that's a slippery slope no society should be willing to slide down. Rowan Atkinson is adamant that comedy thrives on unrestricted expression and should never be bound by fleeting societal trends or so-called woke sensibilities. To him, humor is cyclical. What's considered taboo today might be embraced tomorrow. A joke's purpose, he argues, is simple: to entertain. If it connects with even a niche audience, it still holds value. Rowan strongly believes that context is everything in comedy. A joke told among friends might not work on a public stage, but that doesn't mean it lacks artistic merit. He takes issue with those who manipulate context to police humor, standing firm that comedians should never be pressured into apologizing for their craft. Audiences, especially those who willingly buy tickets, must understand that comedy comes with the possibility of being challenged or even offended. For Rowan, creative expression, whether it's a joke, a painting, or any form of art, belongs to the artist, not the critics. If a joke doesn't land, that's for the audience to decide, not for self-appointed moral gatekeepers to censor. Rowan Atkinson considers free speech to be life's second most valuable gift, right after food and just ahead of shelter. To him, the ability to express oneself openly is nearly as essential as survival itself. He's been fortunate to enjoy that freedom throughout his career, and while his status protects him from major repercussions, his real concern is for everyday people who don't have that same privilege. It's not about shielding celebrities or public figures. It's about ensuring that regular individuals aren't silenced for simply sharing their thoughts. Rowan sees free expression as the foundation of a healthy society, and when that right is chipped away, it's not just comedians who suffer. It's everyone. Rowan Atkinson sees a major problem with banning insults, because in reality, almost anything can be twisted to fit that label. Criticism, sarcasm, or even just disagreeing with mainstream ideas can quickly be branded as offensive. This overly broad interpretation fosters a culture of fear and control, where laws designed to prevent negativity end up silencing any form of dissent. Rowan dubs this phenomenon the new intolerance, where uncomfortable voices are silenced under the pretense of safeguarding society. What started as a well-intentioned effort to curb harmful speech has, according to Rowan, morphed into a form of authoritarianism. It punishes even reasonable conversations and suppresses the essential freedoms of thought and expression, creating a society where people are too scared to speak their minds for fear of being branded as offensive. Rowan's words are a wake-up call for a society that's increasingly hesitant to engage in honest, tough conversations. If we truly want a world that values free expression, we need to be prepared to face opinions that challenge us, even if they make us a bit uncomfortable. So, what do you think? Do you agree with Rowan's take on free speech and comedy, or do you have a different perspective? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and share your opinions below. Let's keep this conversation going.